Here we go. I've started the recording. I have started the recording. This is Design 301. It's a lecture. It's Thursday, September 9th. And we are on a Google Meet right now. This week, week 3, we're working on the copy, move, trim, and offset commands. And I kind of went over most of this stuff. So I think the thing to do is just get in and do plate 3 and plate 4, which you see right here. And you can see it's got kind of the same style. This one looks a little bit different, but we'll still go ahead and use it. And I'm going to show you a new little trick when we get in. Actually, both of these have a new little trick. So you will see that I am in VMware. I know that's not easy for everybody to work in, but believe it or not, the computer in my office does not have any Autodesk products on it, and it doesn't have any Microsoft products on it, and it doesn't have any Adobe products on it. So everything I do gets done through VMware. Now, I will admit, I got a nice setup. I've got 3 screens and microphones and all this other kind of stuff. But all of my software is in the cloud, which means that I can put the full power of my computer into processing renderings, which is another part of what I do. So here we go. I've already downloaded this, but I'm gonna, and last time I showed you that I had it, I put it in the drawing. This time, I'm just going to have it up on the desktop on the side, and I'm going to show you the work. Because there's more than, there's so many ways to arrange your work. So here we go. I'm going to open my AutoCAD. And I'm going to make this a little smaller and this a little smaller so they sit side by side. There, now I can see it. I've already made my adjustments. I've got my background set, I have my toolbars set, I have my customization set, and my units are set, as are my line weight settings. They're inches, and I remember how I beef it up so it looks a little bit better as I draw. And I'm going to, in a week or two, I'm going to show you a way to control that in a much better way. But let's take a look really quickly at this one. Where did it go? I guess I just had it kind of open. Let's make this a little bit bigger so you can see it. So what I've got here, remember how on the last one we had rectangles and we moved them into place? Well, now we've got triangles, and we're going to move them into place. And I'm going to follow the same pattern where I hook it up to a corner and then I move it the distance. Okay. The only thing is this one's a little bit different of what I do on the inside. So I'm going to have to take another way of looking because it doesn't tell me where it is. So I'm going to have to do a little bit of tricky work there to do that. And then because this isn't a rectangle, it's not a shape dimensioned like I can use the shape button, I'm going to have to draw this in another fashion that allows me to make that offset work very easily. And so there's a few little things for me to do here that are a little bit tricky that I'll show you. So first, it's still inside of a rectangle. So I'm going to go from 0, 0, enter, to 10, 7.75, enter. And I'm going to double click my mouse wheel. Click, click, and it zooms the whole thing. So that's kind of cool. Now, I'm going to draw something called a polyline here. A polyline. Okay? To get that to go right. And so I see that these are, it's got 30-degree angles And so I can draw a polyline 2.5, then 2.5 at an angle of whatever that is, and then another 2.5. And when you make a polyline, it treats it like one of these shapes in that you can do that offset and all that other kind of stuff. So I'm going to do one of these as a polyline and one as regular lines so that you can see the difference. And actually, it doesn't matter which way you do it. Here's a polyline, 2.5, 2.5, and then I come down to my close. And I touch enter to finish it. And see how that's all one thing now? That's how it works being a polyline. And so now remember my offset. Here my offset is 0.25. So I can do that offset. It's asking me the distance, 0.25, enter. Select my object, click, and then go outside, and it's going to be to the inside. So there we go. So now I want to do that. Now I want to do what I did before, which was copy and click, let go. I'm going from right to left. So anything my box touches, click, enter. And I want to put the far corner on the near corner. And then I want to move it. And I'm going to move it 0.25 because I see they're all 0.25. This little gap, if I do some arithmetic, 2.5 plus 2.5 is 5. 5.25 minus 5 is 0.25. So they're all 0.25. So now here's a really cool, tricky one too. So now I can copy this one again. I can put the corner right on there. And now when I do my move command, I'll move in that direction 0.25. And see how I've got my 3 triangles. So that's a cool way to do it. That's a cool way to do it. Now over here, I'm going to show you how you could make this triangle in a different fashion. And then do it. And that's using the line command. Starts out the same. 2.5. Get my tracking. 2.5. And look, I have to be just kind of, I have to start knowing angles. If you don't really remember angles or never really taught them, let me know, because there's an awesome website called Purple Math, and it's the most incredible thing, and I used it to teach angles to my kids and their group of students when they were in junior high and high school, and it's just got the most awesome stuff. So if you're interested, just ping me and let me know, and just say Purple Math angles. And I'll get you, I'll show you where it is. And you can start remembering, okay, there's 90 degrees in a corner. And so I can cut that into 60s and 30s. And you just have to have multiples in your brain. Your multiples just need to be in your brain. And so you can think about these, and they're all based on cutting a circle into quarters, which is a 90 degree. Okay, but right now, these are each individual. So if I do my offset command, it does it line by line, and it doesn't bother to think about these extra little pieces to get rid of. So I have to do that trim command to get rid of them. Now, how long does that actually end up wasting? Not much. But if you're in a speed mode for, somebody you're working for, that could have saved you a minute. And then everything else goes along the same. So that's one of the differences between polyline and line. When it's a polyline, it all works together. Cool. So now I need to do some playing around in here. Now that polyline thing isn't quite as easy, because if I do an offset of 0.25, because I need to get this one in here now, 0.25. Now I've got all my internal stuff, but I have to teach you a new command, and it's called explode. And that turns a polyline into just regular lines. Oh, I have to be out. Explode. That thing, and that thing. And now you're going to see a really trick little thing happen. Delete. 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 I'm just leaving my little corner points, because I can now make a polyline, and I can just go point, point, point. And now I've got another polyline again to offset. There we go. I got it. Now there's some little pieces in here, and see how I'm going right to left? If I do it right, I get only that piece. Delete. Only that piece. Delete. Only that piece. And now it's all really set. And my last trim is, again, I just have to look over here and I go, okay, let's see. Those two are gone. Those two go away. Those two go away. Oh my gosh, it's those two go. I'm looking back and forth and back and forth and back and forth. And I'm trying to just get in my mind, I'm recognizing where my cursor is compared to where it is on the other one. Wow, that is so cool. Now, if you need to check just really quickly, you can go to this fast dimension and just see. Yeah, I'm pretty sure I got it right. So that's a fast dimension way, and then I'll erase it. Or we can do what I talked about last time, which is type in DIST for distance, and just do some clicking. 2.5, 5.25, 0.25. Okay, got it. Doesn't matter how you do that. Okay, and I'm just throwing stuff out to show. So that's how you do that one. So that one took me about 10 minutes while I was chit-chatting with you about it. So I think that one should be half an hour to an hour. That would be my guess for most students. And if you've already got some use of this, you'll start cooking through it as you get going, as you get used to when you click and when you don't click, and when you have to hit enter and when you don't, and when you hit escape. But here we go. I've got my snip button, and I'll take my snip, save my snip, and I have to get to the right folder. And notice how I tend to write them down in a way that I think I can remember. So I can save this one now as save as. I have to go find that spot again. I've got that saved. So there it was. Did that, I'll open it up for questions. Was that a reasonable process that you guys can sort of follow? Any questions on it? Okay, cool. Yeah, it's starting to get a little, it's enough like the other ones, I hope. Okay, so Cynthia, anything else on that one? Okay. Uh-huh. Okay. Okay, so there's a few things that it could be, and I don't know. And then Richard, I'll check with you too in just a moment. So when you do this one, when you do that, it depends on whether this dynamic input mode is on or not. So when that's on, and oops, I'm going to turn it back on, and I click this, it says specify your first corner, and I'll put it over here or wherever. I'll put it at 2,2, right? And now it says specify your other corner, 2.5, 2.5. Okay, and that's got it right. Now, here's the weird thing. If that thing is not on, it goes into another mode. So watch. Now I'm going to go specify my first point, 2,2. And where do I want to put it? 2.5, 2.5. Is that what happened? Okay, here's the answer. When you're in dynamic input, it's in what is called relative mode, and it counts from where you are. So when I'm here and I click and I say 2.5, 2.5, it counts from where my first click was. It goes go over 2.5 and up to 2.5. When that is off, it's actually absolute mode, and whatever I put in always counts from 0, 0. So you went to the point that is at 2.5, 2.5. Yep. Okay, so that's what it is. So I do my demonstration. So sorry, I think I mentioned that for like 3 seconds at one point 2 weeks ago. So I was like, okay, I got it. Say it a couple more times. I always have my dynamic input on to do that. Okay, and that should help out. Okay, otherwise you really do have to, drag it the distance and go. Okay, so there's that one. Richard, you had a question. Yeah, there's tons of them. There's tons of them. Like if I come into here, usually if you've done an L, it'll be up here. So like if I draw a line, I just right click, I've got repeat line. So that's one. If I draw a line, click enter, enter. That does my line command again. Okay, just enter, enter. That's very quick. I'm personally a typer where I type, you know, L, enter, and then I get going. I use my left hand on the keyboard and my right hand on the mouse. That when I first came into AutoCAD, typing the commands was a smart thing to do because they changed these ribbons on a yearly basis, and you could never find them again. It's like, so I learned to type commands. Yes, and there's also, and you can set your commands, but you wouldn't do control because you can just type L. Right, right. And yes, you can set your own Express Tools. Hold on, I'm going to find it for you. You can play around. Command aliases, I think, is where it is. Yeah, so you can do it's they're called shortcut keys. If you just Google AutoCAD shortcut keys, I think that's where it is. Yep, there it is. Yeah, yeah, no, type in shortcut keys and you can set your own. Yeah, yeah. And look, that's a cool thing. We all have the ways to do it, right? I know some people that use digitizer pads and some people that do this and some people do that. And you can even do TP so that this is always sitting here nearby. So you just go click on, like if you've got your 5 that you're always using, you just go click and you're in, you know, right? And you can set these up also depending on whether you're in, okay, I'm going to be drawing. I want my drafting one that's got my 5. And then you go, okay, I'm going to be in annotations. You go to your annotation one so you don't have these millions of them up here, right? So tool palettes are often used, but most people do. They just assign their own shortcut. Yeah, yeah. And you're and so just a Google shortcut key because it's in here somewhere and it's under manage or yeah. The hard way to do it is go through here and set your shortcuts. There it is right there. So you can assign your own in there. So that's, yeah. And then you can have even shortcut menus. It's like, yeah, yeah. Okay, cool. That was a good question. This is so customizable that it's like, you know, wow, that's a ton. Okay. Any other questions before we go? Those are great, great questions, great comments. Any others before we go on to plate number 4? Okay, then again on this one, I'm going to show you a couple of different ways, just because we've got time, and I like to let people see that you know, there is no right way to do this drawing. The only right way is the one that turns out with a correct drawing. Now, you can get more and more and more requirements laid on it as you go, you know, about layers and precision and this and that and the other thing. But there's 2 or 3 ways to do this one very, very easily. And I'm going to follow one of them right now. So here we go. Click. Start a new one. Turn that off. Everything else is set. I'm at home. And what I see is if I start here, I can draw this outside line. And then I can go over here, 1.25 comma 1.25 and up, minus 1.25 comma 1.25. So I can go all the way around here with a polyline, and then I can do an offset. So I'm going to try that. Oh, let me draw my rectangle first. And as a reminder, because now I know, thank you, I've got my dynamic input on. Now look, if it's not on, it'll still work because I'm going from 0, 0 to here. And that's counting from 0, 0. That's why that one worked, because I'm still counting from here. But normally I'm going to have my dynamic input on. I'm going to double click my mouse wheel. That brings the whole thing into shape. And now I just have to draw this. So I'm going to start with a polyline, and I'm going to go 2.5, 1.25, comma 1.25, up 2.5. Now I got to be thinking I'm going to go minus 1.25. Going to go to the left, comma, up 1.25. And now I'm going to go minus and minus. So this way is easy if you've got your directions all really nailed and you know your directions and everything's cool and good. But if you don't remember your pluses and minuses and how far it was, that was a real bummer way to go. But now look, I need to offset 0.42. Offset 0.42. Click, click. Oh, it didn't quite work, did it? It sort of worked. Okay, so what I can do then is I can explode that one and do it in trim. Explode that. Now I can offset. Oh, actually, hold on. I'm really messing this up. I'm doing it all wrong. Let me do that again. I'm going to undo that. What I want to do and use the copy command. Sorry, I was doing the wrong problem. Copy. And look, I can take the far point and put it there and put it there. And I can take the near point and I just hit enter again. Put it there. That's how I did those so fast. So I say copy. Click, click, enter, that finishes it. Enter, that starts it. Enter, click, click. And now I need to do my up-down ones. 0.42. And I do the same thing again. Copy. Sorry, I was doing the wrong drawing that was stuck in my brain from another one. Now look, I can do enter, copy again, and I can copy two at once. Which way is right? Whichever way you want. And now I can just go around and I've got my outer shell. So sorry about misleading you on that first one. Now my next shell is just midpoint to midpoint. Doesn't tell me where it is. So I'm going to, and it's not great. It's not a great drawing, but I'm going to guess it's midpoint because this is about O snaps. I need to turn my midpoint on. And now I've got another 0.2 that I need to draw. Sorry, 0.42. I don't think I drew 0.42 there. Complete. And I just have my left hand on my keypad. I'm not paying attention very well, sorry. And I just keep clicking enter in 0.42. I have my keypad going. And now I can go endpoint to endpoint. Now this next one, I have a few ways I can do it. But since I'm doing all this OSNAP stuff, I'll do one of these. Watch this. How about that for being cool? I saw that my corner to my corner was a thing, and now I can offset that one 0.42, and I can draw my little lines. And I'm just doing the enter, redo the command enter, enter, enter. And there we go. So that's kind of a cool way to be able to do that one. Let me show you another way to do the outside, which was what I was thinking of. It's 5 long, and I cut 1 1/8 off of each corner. And this is a new command. It's called chamfer, and we'll go over it more. But under this little button here is a chamfer. And I'm going to do it by 2 distances. 1.25 off of one leg, 1.25 off of another leg. And I'll do multiples. Click, 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 click. That's cool. I love doing that. Okay, so that's another kind of a cool tool that makes things go a little. So look at how fast I got that one done compared to what I did over here, where I did it piece by piece by piece. Okay, so there are tons of cool tools. Do you have to know chamfer? No, you don't. But that's a cool way to do it. You could also know that that's a 45-degree angle. So I could have just said chamfer 45, back 1 point. So there's many, many, many ways to go ahead and build this one. You could have found out that another way to do this is 2.5 by 0.25. Watch this. Now I've got one of those, and I can draw a line that's 5 long, and I can copy that. That's another way to do it. It's like, oh my gosh, there are so many ways to start building this thing. And then some of you might have seen that rotate command. Okay, so if I come over here, I can rotate this and this about the midpoint, and I can say make a copy and go 90 degrees. Do you need to know any of that? Absolutely not. I'm only showing you so that you know that we're doing the basics, and oh my gosh, can you get cool and groovy to make life fast for yourself later on? Okay? So I also could do a mirror and all sorts of other things. So don't worry about all that. I just wanted to show you that it exists. This is the main thing to do. Okay? So again, I can do a save on this one. Plate 4, and I can do a snip. Try that again. I'm very clumsy today. I got this in there. That shows it's mine. I would go back and fix that. There we go. And it looks like I have a dash in most of those. There. And if you can take care, that's all good. So there's another cool one that you can do. And you can work and look at some of these and see how they go. Okay? So those are the 4 drawings for this week. Any questions on what I did on this one now? Let's see, there's a question or a comment. Nope, yeah, it's everything's looking okay. Any more comments or questions on that? So I'll show you some other cool stuff if you're interested. Oh my gosh. All right, well, now I'm going to give you some cool stuff to make questions out of. Okay, so I talked about patterns. So let me do some pattern work. And I'm going to make a pattern. And I think I'll do this cool angly stuff. And I can assign colors. So I'm going to assign some red. And I'm going to make the outside look like one kind of weird pattern. And then I just hit close. Not very pretty, but it's going to prove a point. It's going to show a point. And then there's tons of different patterns. I can make these ones concrete. But it's kind of weird. Cynthia, yes. Yeah. Right. So there's a few things that happen on that. I'm going to take this one. If for any reason, so I'm going to make this just a hair wrong. Okay? If you have something like that, it will bleed around and it will cause problems. Okay? So that's one thing. Also, if you can't see everything, sometimes it's doing what is called island detection. And it's got some places where things are overlapping and doing things, and it can't tell on its own what's going on. And so let me give you an example. Let's say I couldn't find that one all on its own. There's a real cool command called BO, boundary. And you click inside of it, and it ensures that there's a boundary around that. Now, when you go to it and click inside, it truly will find that. Now, I will say, save your work before you do that, because if there's any little path out into the universe and it finds it, it will try to draw a boundary around the entire universe, and it will crash your drawing. Okay? So save your drawing first. But usually it has to do with tiny little gaps or overrides or overlaps that it can't quite tell the difference of. Yeah. You don't. You don't. You actually, it doesn't let you, if I click on that, it doesn't let me reassociate. Oh, well, you can remove some little areas. Is that what? Let's see. Remove. Let me select. Yeah, see, it has a real hard time. You know, so I usually go, no, that wasn't what I wanted. Let me get rid of it and come back and do another little part. Yeah, it's a booger. So let me come back. I'm going to do these ones as concrete now, just for fun. So there are some problems with the hatch command that come up later on, but I'll do that. And now I'll do one more just for fun. And I'll do brownstone and red. And the scale can be kind of funny too. See, like right there, it's trying to do something and it looks like it's picking two, but it eventually found one. I've got that. And let me just do one more. I'll do this weird text thing. And I'll change a color. And usually this is some sort of, usually this is, and see how it doesn't show up? It's like, well, is it too big? Yeah, I can change the scale. There we go. So that's my little thing that I want. Okay, now check this out. There's more ways of doing patterns, right? So I can copy, but this is your pattern box. And you can make round patterns. You can make them go along a path. And we're going to do more of this later. But let me just do this. Here's a pattern. And if I hit enter, and it's hard to see, but when I click, there's a little arrow right here that lets me pull those together. I can even get them to overlap if I want, but I can make my pattern whatever I want. Direction, and I could even type in the distances. And I can add more onto them. There's a little, it's hard to see, but there's an arrow there. There I'm doing it by the arrow, but I can also type things in if I know them. So now I've got a pretty substantial, kind of cool background pattern that I can use. So that's kind of a neat thing that you can do. And when you make it an array, it actually is a smaller file than if I had done copy. Because AutoCAD remembers one, and then it knows that there's this many this way. So it just uses a few little bits of information to figure out how to redraw this, versus having to know I've got this thing here and this thing here and this thing here and this thing here. So this is one of those things, one of those cool tools that people might use. People make arrays of arrays. Now let me do this. I'll make a polar array of this array, and I'll put the center over here, and I can make an even more cool array. I can keep them that way, or I can rotate them as they go, and I can make more of them. And you can really do some cool stuff. So now all of a sudden I'm getting some pretty cool things. It's getting so dense, I think I have to turn my line weights down, because they're overwhelming it. Looks a little better. My colors aren't really coming through, but this is like people, that graphic artists will often use something like AutoCAD, because it does have some really cool repetitive tools. And what's nice is this is what's called a vector, so I don't have to transform it to work on a laser cutter or a laser printer or any of the vector style production pieces of equipment. Whereas if you had done this in Photoshop, you'd have to put it into a compiler that's made for your piece of equipment that would make it a vector. So that it's just kind of a cool, fun thing. Kind of cool, fun, weird thing. Okay? And we're going to go over these later some more. Alicia, yes. 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 So this is what's called a vector drawing, where everything is actually identified as a specific line from a point to a point. So instead of being a bitmap, which is like this line is made up of 1,000 little points, right? It's actually 3 pieces of information: start point, length, and angle. So that's it. It just, AutoCAD just stores those 3 little things, which is like almost nothing. And most production pieces of equipment that are going to run a cutter or a head, a print head or a milling head or a laser cutter or anything like that wants the vector, because then it can just say, oh, move my head this direction at this speed very, very quickly and easily. So that's called a vector file, a vector drawing. Whereas Photoshop is a bitmap drawing, a raster drawing, not necessarily a bitmap, but a raster. And it's got very complex stuff that makes it more compact and easy to read too. But machine tools cannot read rasters. Machine tools read vectors. Okay, now many machine tools have, because there's super, super brilliant programmers out there that have made programs that will take your Photoshop drawing that's a raster and recognize where vectors ought to be. It's so cool. And it isn't even new. They were doing this in the 90s very, very effectively. So it's not like Photoshop is bad, but some people just want to go, no, I'm just going to go right into my vector and do their graphic design with a vector drawing, which is AutoCAD. And by the way, I can bring in a PDF. That's one of these Express tools somewhere. Maybe it's not there. Maybe it's in Insert. But I can import a PDF and turn it into a vector. So AutoCAD even knows that people want to do that. I can import a PDF and say, make it a vector. And now I have an AutoCAD drawing. Really cool stuff. Certainly it's not for this class. Oh, I just expired. Let me get back in again. But it's nice to kind of know, right? This is an introductory class. You're not supposed to know how to do it, but it's kind of nice to know that you're going to eventually, someday, do more than draw stars and little lines and goofy shapes that have no purpose, right? One purpose is graphics. So that's kind of cool. There we go. Oh man, there's so many cool things to do. Any other cool questions? That was great. That was the array command, array or pattern. Let me actually do one along a path just for fun. I'm going to make, here's another one. I made this huge. I don't know why. So that was a polyline. If I do p edit, and you're going to get to this later on too, p edit, you can do all these things like fit it, make it a spline, move these things. So I'm going to, so now it's kind of a fancy, cool shape, right? And it did that for me based on what I drew. So if I take a little circle and do an array of this object along this path, enter. And I can make them farther apart or closer together. And this is something that some people do in animations, that instead of doing a fancy animation, they'll take a short video clip or a GIF of this and then insert it into their animation. Isn't that cool? So we actually have our interns that, oh, look at that. Slinky. Oh, so cool of what you can do with AutoCAD. And these all work in 3 dimensions too, later on. But that one, so these are, now we go over chamfer later on. We go over mirror later on. We go over rotate later on. We don't do stretch, but I'll probably talk about it at some point. And then over here, we're going to do arcs later on. So I know that we haven't covered all this, but I'm giving you just some kind of like highlighter points. All right, after all that, any other questions? Then there we go. Enjoy the work. Play around with it if you want, and you will have opportunities to apply this to your industry later on. I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording.